All right, what's going on, guys? So this video is going to go over a couple of not really tips and tricks, but more quality of life stuff about your interface and just settings that you can change in order to make life a little bit easier when you're playing RuneScape. A lot of these things mostly are going to come up with bossing, but cleaner and slimmer looks are often things that people care about. So if that's something that you care about, then this is going to matter to you a lot. First things first is locking our interface. This is something that I see a lot of players not do. They will either have everything completely unlocked, or if you go under gameplay in the settings, you can drop down to interface and appearances, or they'll use slim headers. These are both options that you can use. Slim headers is good because this X is really small, so you can't accidentally close out of your backpack, for instance, but it is still there, and it is something that I've accidentally pressed, and it's gotten me killed at bosses. So the way you deal with this is by locking the interface. My button for locking the interface is L. I don't know if that's the same for everyone, but that's something that you can do. Now the X is gone. Nothing can be resized. Everything's where it should be. Another option you can do is hide title bars when locked. I do this because it cleans up the look and gives you a lot more space to work with. This is totally up to you. However, you can also use the slim headers with this, and it will put a little cone at the top of your interfaces. This is a pretty sleek look. I like the way that this looks, but ultimately, it's up to you and what you guys wanted. Now, again, the big reason to lock your interface is so you don't accidentally move it when you're doing something important. So something that's happened to me is, oh, you're trying to surge over here, you move your mouse too much, close out your backpack. Now what? If you don't know the keybind for your backpack, which I don't know, this is just gone now. And like, you just have to teleport. Especially if there's stuff in your backpack like food that you need. And then the same thing, oh, you're trying to unequip something, you misclick, and then you do this. You just shrink your worn equipment. That's really bad. You don't want that to happen. This is why locking your interface is really, really important, in my opinion. Another thing is that in your chat box, you see this plus here. This has a ton of settings under here, which are cool. You know, you can fix a lot of stuff. You can press this, it'll let you change a bunch of stuff. It'll let you change your chat size, it'll let you change your examine settings. It has a profanity filter, it has chat badges. There's a lot of stuff in here if you want. It has a report button, it has an online status so people can see if you're online, and then it lets you change what you actually see in this chat, and then it's going to be different for each one. Now, one of these options is the always on mode. What this does is it disables all of your keybinds, basically, except your F keys, I think. And your chat box is always on. Now, this is fine if you're AFKing or something, but if you're bossing, this will also just kill you. The way I deal with this is once you have settings that you like, you press this minus, and now that whole bar is just gone. You never have to worry about accidentally pressing that. This is another very useful setting, especially for bossing, because again, the last thing you want to happen is accidentally disable all of your keybinds and not know why. There have been a lot of times where my keybinds weren't working and I wasn't understanding what was going on. I couldn't tell if I was lagging or what. That's what happened. Another thing to mention is that your action bar, having this locked versus unlocked, again, it has very similar issues with the other stuff, is that if you click any of your abilities, you don't want to drag it by accident. Like, oh, I'm trying to click this, and then I dragged it. So, you know, you're trying to click here, you try to click your overpower, and then you drag it off your action bar. Or you try to click whatever ability this was. I think it was Havoc. No, I don't remember what ability it was, but I'll figure it out later. But you accidentally click that ability, and then you just drag it off of your bar. That's not something you want to happen. It's really bad if that happens. So this is why once you've settled on what you want stuff to be, you just want to lock the interface. It's just, there's no reason not to have the interface locked once you've settled on where things are. So that's it for interface stuff. I think all that stuff is really important. Something else that's worth considering is you may notice that my pack yak, I can't click on my pack yak. This is because if you go in settings, then you go to skills and experience, and go down to summoning, there is this hide familiar options. If you do this, it just removes the option of clicking on your familiar. So you can see here, if we're a little bit zoomed in and then we're trying to click back here, oh, we actually clicked on our familiar, especially because this familiar is pretty big. This is like really bad with familiars like Artemis. Artemis is like really massive. Like Artemis is huge. And then I think her tail is part of her click box. Yeah, like her tail is part of her click box. So it's really, really easy to click on your pet by accident. Like you're trying to walk back and forth at a ratio and then, oh, clicked on your pet, right? You don't want that to happen. The easiest way to fix this, hide familiar options, you can't click on it. There's just no option to click on it. This is another really good thing. I recommend having this checked pretty much all of the time. I haven't found a good reason for your familiar to be clickable. There's a couple more things that you can do with your settings and then your skybox and your filters. So if we look at our skybox, that's this. It's essentially what color the sky is, and then the sky projects onto the rest of the map, which means that depending what your skybox is, it can dramatically impact how much you can see. So if we look at Daystone, you see that the map is a lot brighter and there's a lot more visibility. This is especially useful at places like Ripper Demons, where in their original spot, you can't really see the black mark on the ground sometimes. So we're actually going to go over to Ripper Demons to show you what that looks like. Okay, so now we're here at Ripper Demons. We're just going to attack one of these. And then I'm just going to AFK and let its bar fill. So now it jumps and I'm moving, but you can see that shadow was pretty much invisible. So now we'll exit the tunnel. Okay, so now we're going to set our skybox to midday and we're going to go back in. We'll hit this guy. Just let his bar fill up. This isn't going to be way, way brighter, but it's going to be enough brighter that we're going to be able to see that something's different. So you can see that's, even though it's not that much more visible, that is significantly more visible than it was before. So that's one reason why you may want to change your skybox. This is one of the only places where it's super, super important. So the last thing I want to talk about is our camera. So there's a couple of options with your camera. I think the only one that's worth using is the Freedom camera, but we're going to go over all of them to go over the pros and cons. So this is modern. You can see it does let us zoom out, but it doesn't let us zoom out a whole lot. There's not that many places where you need crazy zoom, but generally speaking, being able to see more is just better. For instance, we're going to go to Zamorak and then we'll see how many of the pads that we can see here. So here we're at Zamorak. If we kill, like if we're fighting Zamorak near this mage, we can kind of see the pads. They're really far, but like, let's say we're running towards this pad. We can see pretty much nothing. Now let's go to Classic. Now Classic has the same level of zoom, but you can see the camera follows us a lot more rigidly. So when we do movement abilities, the camera kind of snaps to us. It snaps with us. And in my opinion, this is kind of jarring and it's hard to see what's going on, especially if you ever do like double movement. Like the camera is really stuck on you and the movement isn't very smooth. Now this is freedom. This is the same thing as modern, but it zooms out a lot more. So you can see, we can see pretty much the entire map here. Like even if we're coming from over here to this pad, we can still see all of the runes for quite a while. And then once we're here, we can orient our camera like this. We can see Zamorak, clearly see all of the runes. So personally, I think this is the best camera. And then finally, there's Freedom Classic. This zooms out even farther, but it has the same issue that Classic does, where the camera like snaps onto you. This makes it very difficult to click on an enemy after a movement ability. So if I want to skulls this Chaos Witch, like we can surge over here and like I was trying my best to click on the Chaos Witch. Whereas if we use Freedom, it's really easy to just dash and then click on the witch, right? Like we can dash in, and then because the camera lags behind us a little bit, it's really easy to have precise clicks while you're doing movement abilities or just while you're moving in general, you know? Like let's say we want to click on this witch all the way over here. I just dove into Zamorak. Like we can do this. And like that was a pretty easy click to do. I didn't feel like I had a chance of missing it really. So those are the pros and cons of all of the camera styles. As I said, I think Freedom's the best. I highly, highly recommend everyone use Freedom. It gives you the smoothness of modern and it gives you the visibility of Freedom Classic without having the rigidness of the classic style camera. But yeah, hopefully this showed you a bit more about how you can optimize your gameplay, not necessarily in the buttons you're pressing or having good rotations, but just making sure you're not accidentally ruining your kills, and then making sure that your visibility is really, really high and that you can see everything that you want to see. So yeah, if you liked the video, make sure to give it a like. And if you want to see more content, feel free to subscribe. If you want to support me monetarily, you can become a member. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.